day Daniel met his mother-in-law, she looked him up and down and smiled. But it wasn't the smile of acceptance. It was the smile people give when they've already decided you are not enough. Daniel worked as a cleaner in a downtown office building. Every morning before sunrise, he pushed a mop through marble hallways while men in expensive suits walked past him like he didn't exist. But Daniel had something most rich men in that building didn't have: peace. And he loved Sarah with everything in him. Sarah never cared that he wore faded uniforms or took the bus home. She saw the way he carried groceries for old women without being asked, the way he skipped meals sometimes just to buy her textbooks while she finished nursing school. But her mother, Mrs. Beatrice, hated him from the beginning. A cleaner? She once laughed during dinner. So, this is the man you want to build your future with? The room went silent. Daniel lowered his eyes and quietly continued eating. That night, Sarah cried in his arms. But Daniel only whispered, "One day, your mother will understand." What Sarah didn't know was that Daniel had secretly been studying business at night. Every evening after work, exhausted and smelling of cleaning chemicals, he sat in a tiny apartment watching free online classes until 2 a.m. Most nights, he fell asleep with the laptop still open. Nobody noticed, nobody cared. Then came the wedding day, and that was the day everything shattered. During the reception, Mrs. Beatrice stood to give a speech. At first, people thought she would bless the couple. Instead, she humiliated him in front of everyone. "I still don't understand," she said loudly while holding her wine glass, "how my daughter went from dating doctors and lawyers to marrying a janitor." The hall froze. Some guests looked away in embarrassment. Others laughed quietly. Sarah's face turned pale. But the worst part, Mrs. Beatrice reached into her purse, pulled out cash, and placed it in Daniel's hand. "Since you people struggle so much," she said, "consider this my wedding gift." You could hear a pin drop. Daniel stared at the money in his palm. For a moment, it looked like he might cry, but instead, he folded the cash carefully, put it in his pocket, and smiled. Then he said something nobody there would ever forget. "Thank you, ma'am. One day, I'll return this kindness in a way you never expected." People mocked him after that, but Daniel never argued. He simply worked harder. Months passed, then years. Daniel started a small cleaning company with two borrowed mops, one second-hand van, and a dream nobody respected. At first, businesses rejected him constantly. Some wouldn't even let him finish speaking. Others laughed at his old shoes and cheap suit. But every rejection made him hungrier. He cleaned offices during the day, managed employees at night. Sarah stayed beside him through everything. When they couldn't afford rent, she sold her jewelry. When Daniel wanted to quit, she reminded him of his promise. Slowly, the business grew. One building became three. Three became 10. 10 became 50. Soon, Daniel's company was handling contracts worth millions. The same executives who once ignored him were now shaking his hand and calling him sir. And the strange thing, success never changed him. He still greeted security guards by name, still carried boxes when employees struggled, still remembered what it felt like to be invisible. Then one rainy afternoon, Sarah received a call that changed everything. Her mother had collapsed, stroke, severe complications, and the family had run out of money. The hospital demanded immediate payment for surgery. Mrs. Beatrice's wealthy friends disappeared overnight. The doctors were preparing discharge papers. Nobody came to help. Nobody except Daniel. When he arrived at the hospital, Miss Beatrice burst into tears. Not proud tears, broken tears. I treated you like trash, she whispered weakly from the hospital bed. I destroyed your dignity, and now I have nothing. Daniel looked at her quietly for a long moment. Then he reached into his wallet and pulled out something old, folded, and worn. The cash she had handed him on his wedding day. He had kept it for years. Mrs. Beatrice stared at it in disbelief. Daniel gently placed it in her hand and said, you once gave this to me because you thought I was poor. Tears rolled down her face. Then he smiled softly and added, but today I'm paying your hospital bill because I know what it means to be human. Sarah broke down crying. Even the nurse standing nearby wiped her eyes. But the real twist came later that night. After the surgery was approved, Daniel sat alone in the hospital hallway, and for the first time in years, he cried. Not because of humiliation, not because of the pain, but because despite becoming a millionaire, a part of him was still that young janitor, desperately trying to prove he was worthy of love. And sometimes the deepest wounds are not healed by money, they are healed by forgiveness. Mrs. Beatrice never mocked him again. In fact, before she died, years later, she told everyone who visited her one thing: the richest man I ever met was once the man I was ashamed to call family. And now imagine this: if you were Danielle, would you have paid for her surgery after everything she did to you? Or would you have walked away?